It's time for Baseball's Last Frontier, stories from the Pecos League, the podcast that will open your door to baseball's entry level, telling you the stories of the teams, players, and coaches of an independent minor league circuit. I'm your host, Bruce McClure, and I have the pleasure of introducing to you my friend, partner, co-host, and man on the inside, Evan Katz. Evan, what did you do to get kicked out of your place? Come on. What happened?
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming before the season started. In fact, last year, when I visited Todd Everleth, the manager, he had mentioned to me his wife was joining him for the last week of the season. And so as we were getting ready for this year, he said, I just want to let you know she's coming in the last week of the season. We'll find you another place to live. And so I moved my stuff out of the college dorm. It took me probably all of 10 minutes to pack my car. We're traveling very light this year. And I've got a host family, just like the players. And the original plan was to move into an RV at the home of Jerry Vieira, one of the 80s biggest local supporters. But instead, he was able to work things. So I've got a bedroom in his house. So I'm upstairs, and our outfielder, Caleb Copeland, and infielder, Ivan Santos, are downstairs. And I got to tell you, Bruce, it's living in a college dorm. You're self-sufficient. You get a microwave and a refrigerator. This is like being in a five-star hotel. I got my own room. I got a stocked refrigerator. There's cold drinks. It's got a magnificent back deck. This morning, I'm out here finalizing the notes on the podcast, and a deer walks by. There's turkeys going by. It's got a quiet yard overlooking a river floodplain. So I have to say, this is a big improvement over college dorm living.
All right, so I got to say that I'm in agreement with about everything there except the turkeys. Turkeys drive me nuts. Up here in New London, a couple of years ago, I'm driving home from work, and it's snowing. It's a little slick, and out of the sheer nowhere, this immense wild turkey comes out of a bush and tries to run across the street in front of my car, and he didn't make it. And the damage that resulted on my car, oh my gosh.
Well, in the Northeast, most people's encounters with wild turkeys are as they're going across the road and slowing traffic and causing mayhem. As you describe here, they just blend in. I mean, you go North Platte, the city's 20,000 people. You go 2 towns out, and there's less than 1,000 people. It is still very quiet and rural here, even in the edges of North Platte.
Yeah, you try explaining that to an insurance agent. Yeah, I hit a turkey. You did not. You want to bet? All right. So, if you've been listening to this podcast now for the past couple of years, you know that this show is hosted by a couple of old guys who, when they text, they write grammatically correct paragraphs with punctuation and capitalization. But Evan's telling me that he's trying to learn some shorthand.
Well, we've got a group chat here, right? And we're sort of, Todd and I are in there with 25 Gen Zers, and we're over 60. And the word Trina popped up in a text stream. And Todd had to ask for a translation, so we have been advised. And it's Trina, not Trina. Trina means trying to. It's like gonna means going to. I've incorporated gonna into my texting. I think that has been going on for years. But the great thing about learning Trina is I've been calculating how many texting keystrokes I might be able to save over the next 5 years.
Why am I not surprised? Well, speaking of calculating, I understand that the guys have been calculating about how much they're going to save at the thrift stores.
Thrifting, yeah, comes back. It's deja vu all over again. Tribute to Yogi Berra. We were back in Trinidad. Thrifting is back. Our sidearm lefty pitcher, John Lugering, shows up at the field one day, proudly showing off his thrift store find. He found new baseball pants and a belt.
Styling and profiling.
$1.50 at one of the thrift stores in Trinidad. And I got to mention, serious thrifters note there are 3 thrift stores right on Main Street in Trinidad. So tribute to John Lugering for keeping the thrifting going strong. And also I want to report in the deja vu front, you might remember we talked about the Amtrak Southwest chief which rolls through Trinidad on its trip from LA to Chicago. It came through again. The other night I got a little worried. It's supposed to come in at 6:45. It arrived an hour late, unfortunately, and the train whistle is blown as it appears beyond the right field fence. And I did verify that the train was late by an hour. Amtrak, of course, has on its website a train tracking app or train tracking segment, and that particular train did run an hour late.
So Amtrak's disappointing me. I'm not good with this. They were a stone cold lock last time you were out there, and now so somebody give me the
Well,
President Van Track on the phone.
Well, I mean, well, the funny thing is, we're all used to flying planes, and planes if they just put so much padding into their schedules, they always
Mhm.
arrive on time. With a train, they're a little restricted when they fall behind. I think it's hard given your track conditions and the
Yeah,
limitations on uh, on the equipment. It's hard for them to make up time, and I don't know that they build in extra time on train schedules like they do on jet airplane schedules.
I'm sure they don't. I'm sure they don't. Hey, I was talking with my son last week, and we were reminiscing about him playing Pokemon Go. And when we were talking about getting this episode together this week, you were telling me about the fact that that game's still going strong. Really?
Oh, we're up. It's batting practice again in Trinidad. We're coming off the field, and who knew? Who knew that 1/3 of the North Platte 80s are playing an 8-year-old augmented reality mobile phone game that at one
Corey.
time had over 200 million active players? Before the game, I'm out in right field. We're walking off, and Corey Stewart, our closer, he's looking into his phone at the end of batting practice, and he starts yelling to one of our lefty pitchers, Mike Nestor, Mike, you got your phone? Can you come over here? So Corey, he's the team's highest rated Pokemon Go player. He needed third-party help from Nestor because he needed to vanquish some evil Pokemon force in right field when it was only visible on their phones. And I guess the way this Pokemon Go works, if you run into a bad guy, sometimes you can't kill him yourself. You got to get help from somebody else. So Mike Nestor ran over, and who knows? Mike is probably going to need Stewart's help at Bill Wood Field some this week. I haven't heard any reports of Pokemon Go avatars. What are they called out there? And I haven't heard any reports of them, but we haven't had batting practice this week. It's been so hot and guys have been tired. So maybe today, if we have batting practice, we'll look for the Pokemon Go avatars out in the outfield after batting practice.
Does the Pecos League have a rule about Pokemon Go characters if they actually cross over to reality and take over the field? Is there a rule on that?
And as we always say, Bruce, anything is possible in the Pecos League.
I
So
set that up and you knocked it
it
down.
could happen.
I set that up and you knocked it down. That was fantastic. All right, what happened last week? Tell me about the games.
Game since we're together Monday, July 21st. We lost a forgettable game in Garden City. It was a makeup from an earlier rainout, and they occur from time to time. We lost 17-3. Garden City is 36, 35, and 9. The highlight was 2 innings pitched by our center fielder, Rico Riley, who is a cannon for an arm. He's been itching to pitch all year. We brought him in for the last couple innings. He gave up a run and had 2 strikeouts. The next day, again, Trinidad, one of our favorite destinations, this was what we call a reverse lock game. This is a term that, according to urban legend, is attributed to Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe, who has been inducted to the Ford Frick wing of the Hall of Fame for his
Yes, yeah.
journalistic contributions to baseball. He calls a reverse lock game an obvious mismatch which often results in the underdog pulling a stunning upset. So this is what happened. We go into Trinidad. There's a week left in the season. Some kind of discord, miscommunication. 11 players have left Trinidad. They're down to 14 players. They're 16-29. We come in there, we're trying to make the playoffs. So of course, we're going to win. Well, no. Under Dan Shaughnessy's reversed lock rule, even though we had won 9 of our last 13 games, we lost. Trinidad right-handed pitcher Eric Gallegos pitched a complete game, stymied us, and we lost 6-3, victims of the reverse lock.
Shaughnessy jinxed you guys and he doesn't even know it.
No, he doesn't. Actually, he was just recognized. He and Peter Gammons and Bob Ryan and another
Yep.
Globe writer were just recognized by the Cape Cod League. I think they threw out 4 simultaneous first pitches in recognition of their great contributions to baseball writing in the last week or so.
That's like a group of royalty when it comes to baseball writing.
Yes, it is. I think I saw there was a 4th whose name is escaping me. They called them, the baseball writers Mount Rushmore. Dan Shaughnessy, Bob Ryan, Peter Gammons, and someone else whose name is escaping me.
I'll have to look that up.
Anyway, Wednesday in Trinidad, rained out. Summer thunderstorm in the mountains, elevation of 6,000 feet. But I do want to report the Amtrak Southwest Chief was only 15 minutes behind schedule as we were standing there in the rain. Back home for the last 6 games, a couple days ago against Kansas City Iola. This is the team that plays at Sunday games in Kansas City at Satchel Paige Park. And it's weekday games, 108 miles to the southwest in the small town of Iola. They're down to 18 players in the last week of the season, but there was no reverse lock. Our starter, Pierce Salvago, held the Hormigas to 1 run in 5 innings. His 7 strikeouts maintained his top 3 position in the league strikeout leaderboard, and that their team was undermanned. We beat them 25-2. RBI leaders were TJ Beninati with 6, Ivan Santos with 5 on 4 hits. Rico Riley had 4 RBIs with 3 coming on his team leading 8th home run. Friday night, again, the Hormigas, the dreaded reverse lock looming. Again, starter Rene Colon held the Hormigas to 1 run in 5 innings for the win. We won 20-3. This is a little sad. And in the first 2 innings, the Hormigas pitcher issued 9 walks, 2 hit batters, 3 errors, and we had an 11-2 lead after 1 hit. Not very pretty baseball. It's sorry to say. The evening's highlight was a grand slam by catcher John Hamowitz in the 7-run 8th inning. So some people remember John hit his first professional home run a couple weeks ago at home. Our bullpen scampered out as quickly as we could to get to the ball, but some younger, enterprising fans had beaten the 80s bullpen crew to the spot beyond the outfield fence where the ball had landed. We tried to trade baseball gear so we could get John's first professional home run ball back. They refused. Well, this particular situation, as soon as the home run cleared the fence, Pierce Salvago sprinted through the gate out to the street, ran behind the outfield fence, and he got John's 2nd professional home run, his first grand slam, and he brought that ball back to John after the game.
Attaboy, Pierce.
That's right. Don't just remember, starting pitchers, they might pitch every 5 days, but they're very busy in between. They have important responsibilities out in the bullpen, and chasing home runs is one of them.
Nice.
Finally, last night, Trevor Nelson held the Hormigas to 2 runs in 6 innings. We won 9-4, brought the team to a season high 6 games over 500 at 26-20. We had big hits in the first inning, a 2-run home run from Rico Riley, a 2-run double from Ryan Lutinsky put the 80s ahead 4-1. Trevor actually executed a squeeze bunt RBI, and we had a 2-run single from John Hamowitz to build the lead. This has clinched home field advantage for the 80s in the playoffs against Blackwell.
Bonus baseball. Nice.
Yes.
As you were telling us about the games this week, it just dawned on me the 4th guy in that first pitch in the Cape Cod League. It was Lee Montville.
Oh, of course.
No,
Thank you. Thank you for checking that.
So you've got a new perspective this week in the interview. Tell us about that, would you please?
Well, we try to provide different angles on the Pecos League. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we had Joe Barons, a pitcher, and Sean Bennett, a catcher, a couple of veterans, talking about the pitcher-catcher relationship and how they've built theirs over the years. They're both from Michigan. We had a father-son interview with Pierce Salvago and his dad talking about watching him grow up and making being named to the All-Star team a couple weeks ago. This week, we've got the two-man traveling umpire crew of Scott Cotton and Micah Scott. Like teams, they have games every day. They travel thousands of miles. I think Scott or Micah told me they were over 6,000 miles on the road, just like us.
Oof.
But their work is harshly scrutinized by players, managers, and fans, and they never have a home field. Just remember, think about that. Think of if all of your games were always on the road and you never had any fans in the stands. Well, that is the umpire's view. And we're going to hear from Scott and Micah about what it's like to be an umpire in the 2025 Pecos League season.
All right, so we're going to cut to that interview. I've always been interested in hearing from the umpires because they look at the game so differently. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Scott and Micah have to say. Let's cut to that, and we're going to see everybody on the flip side in just a few minutes.
We're at Mid-Plains Community College here in Suite 25A with Micah Scott and Scott Cotton, two Pecos League umpires who are a traveling crew, have been together all season here. We're getting towards the end of the season, and we wanted to get a perspective from them of what it's like to be a Pecos League umpire. So we're going to have each umpire introduce themselves, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what their life is like here in the Pecos League. So Micah, tell me how old you are and your background in umpiring and how you came here to the Pecos League.
My name's Micah Scott. I'm 23. I went to the Wendelstedt School in Florida 3 years ago, and I didn't really do much with it the first few years until this year. My friend Corey called Todd and got him to call Andrew and got me here this year.
Okay, and so how much umpiring have you done before the Pecos League and since the Wendelstedt School?
I did some men's league, but not a lot.
Okay, so this is new to you this year.
Yeah.
And how about you, Scott? How old are you and what's your umpiring background?
Scott Cotton, I'm 19. I also went to Wendelstedt this January. I was lucky enough to be able to, after being done Wendelstedt, do some high school games locally. Anything, little league, high school. And then in February, after being done Wendelstedt, I got a call from one of the instructors saying that an opportunity in the Pecos League has opened up, and I jumped on it. Any experience I can get, I was willing to get. So I took it, and now we're here. Well, it's pretty amazing. I know a lot of players have to move up to get to the Pecos League. You guys have a great opportunity to get your umpiring career started, and of course you're traveling together, you're rooming together. You guys didn't know each other before the season started, so obviously you get along because we're closing in on 50 games, and I'm assuming you've done about 50 games also. How has that worked, being roommates, being co-workers, traveling together? How has that evolved over the season? You know, honestly, since the beginning, or I should say the end of May, it's been awesome. You know, we're pretty much like the same. I feel like it's just been, all I can say is that it's been a great experience doing everything with Micah, traveling, doing games.
You really get to know each other on the field too, and trust where each other's going to be, and it helps off the field. That just at this point, it's like we've known each other for a long time.
For sure.
Was there, as you think back now, this is the end of July, and you started in late May. How long did it take for you to become compatible as roommates, compatible, you're driving partners in a car, and you're also working together? How long did it take for things to evolve?
You know, at first it's going to feel a little weird. You know, you're with someone that you never met before, and you're driving across the country, doing baseball games, and pretty much living with. You know, as weeks get going, it starts to feel normal, and it starts to feel like, you know, this is just any other day.
So Micah, do you guys like the same food?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we're on the road here, it's just lots of fast food.
Whatever we can get.
Yeah.
So can you describe a typical day? So people go to a baseball game, and the umpires come out about 10 or 15 minutes before the game. But you've got a lot of things going on. What is a typical day for you guys? When you get up, and tell us what time do you get up, and then what happens between when you get up and when you show up at the park?
A typical day, for me at least, is just, if I could sleep in, I'll try to sleep in a little bit. Some nights get long. But once I'm up, I try to be, honed in on a game. If I'm behind the plate, I want to be in a good mindset. I want to try to get my gear looking spiffy, and I just try to relax before a game. Honestly.
How about you, Micah?
Yeah, I wake up when we can, as long as we don't have a long travel, and then don't eat lunch until like 2-3 o'clock, since the game's not until 6:30, and we're not going to finish till like 10ish. So then after that, just trying to make sure we're hydrated before we get to the field.
Yeah.
And so, baseball players, they have a game, they talk about it a little bit after the game, they wake up the next day after a good night's sleep. When do you guys talk about what happened? So a game ends at 10 o'clock at night. How much talking do you do right after the game, and how much do you do the next morning?
We'll talk about a game right after.
As soon as we get in the car.
As soon as we get in the car, we'll start talking about, funny moments, or just honestly plays that happened that we could be like, oh, that was a weird play, but I think we got that right. I honestly, as soon as the game's over, we're already talking about it.
Does it, like with a lot of ball players, sometimes it's better to talk about it the next day after you've had a chance to reflect on it. Do you also talk about it in the morning before you go
there'll
over?
be stuff that we think about, and we're like, oh, we didn't talk about that last night. We'll start to talk about that again. But it just depends on what the game looked like the night before.
Yeah.
So you're a two-man crew. Most people that watch baseball games on TV are seeing four-man crews, one at every base. They move around a little bit depending upon the situation. You're a two-man crew. Micah, can you talk about what makes a two-man crew different than a four-man crew? How do the responsibilities and how much you have to move change?
There's a lot of extra added responsibilities and rotations. That's where it's really important to have trust with your partner, because you have to know that they're going to be covering their spot so you can cover yours. Yeah. But it's all about knowing each other and knowing what you expect, and just trying to get the best angle on everything you can.
Could you give me an example of how Scott's going to be able to cover if you have to, there's a line drive down the right field line and you're at home plate and you have to do something and there's a runner at second base? How do you know that Scott's going to be able to cover what you can't see?
So sometimes there'll be audio cues that will yell at each other. Sometimes before the play, if we know it's a possibility, we'll give each other hand signals of what to expect. Just always trying to be in constant communication, knowing what the other person's thinking.
Yeah.
And Scott, with the two-man crew, I mean, you have to be turning and moving with the play. Can you describe how a two-man crew makes it more difficult? And again, people the watch on TV, they see four people, and they generally can get a pretty good view of the call. I mean, talk about some of the limitations so people can understand how a two-man crew is more complex than a four-man crew or a three-man crew.
For a two-man crew, you have to be 24. You got to be locked in. Because there's two sets of eyes, and for a pro baseball game, it kind of puts the pressure on. You got to be ready. You can't be.
Yeah, like when you're in the field, plays, you're 90 feet away calling a play at first base.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of being honed in and how you can try to what's called limit the difficulties of a two-man crew? What do you do to try to make it easier on yourself and Micah?
Stuff to make it seem easier is just what really helps is being able to do games every day. And it doesn't, at first you're like, oh man, I wish this was 3-man or 4-man, but once you get really comfortable with doing games over and over and over with just me and Micah, it just becomes not quite second nature, but it becomes pretty easy.
So having worked together for the summer, what do you do better now, having worked with him? Like the types of calls that are a little bit easier to make based on the experience that you have with a two-man crew?
Sorry, what was the question?
So about what's become easier, but getting to know Mike as a partner. What calls do you feel more confident of, even though you're only working with two people?
I feel more confident in literally everything since the end of May. Everything. I mean, I feel confident everywhere, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And so umpires don't have a home field.
No.
What is it like when you come to a game, whether it's here in North Platte or Blackwell or Trinidad? What's it like knowing, that the home team has their fans, and but you don't have any fans? What is that like?
Everyone's against us.
A lot of talking to each other, like close plays. You'll hear the boos, and after the inning, we'll go up to each other like, "I had the same call. You did good."
Yeah.
Just always making sure we're at least supporting each other.
And once you get later into the season, you get to the same stadiums, and it kind of feels like, all right, well, I've been here before. I know what to expect.
Just zone out the fans as much as you can.
Just try to do you.
So for the fans and the players, we haven't talked about the players and the managers. I mean, there's a lot of emotion in this game. You make a call, there's one side wants it one way, one side wants it the other. How are you able to cope with the fact that people are wanting the call to go their way? They get frustrated, they get angry. There's a lot of yelling and screaming out there. I mean,
yes.
And you got dollar beer nights, getting the fans going.
Yeah.
How do you guys manage it? Because you're seeing a lot of the same players and same teams in the same towns. How do you prepare for the emotional side of this?
Just making sure we're always on the same page. Because with the players, a lot of them are the same. They'll get angry during the 9 innings, but as soon as the game's over, we're cool again. So just making sure me and Scott agree with that, we have this right call on the field and going with it.
Yeah, for sure. Just to write on what Micah said, I've came to terms that it's pretty much any close call, someone's gonna get mad either way at you. But as long as you're confident in your call, there's nothing to second guess.
So it sounds like what you're saying, it does help that emotions can get going during the game or after a call is made, but once the last out is made, things wind down pretty quickly?
Yeah, 99% of the time, most players, as soon as the game's over, they're back to being nice and cool, completely good.
We understand. It's all at baseball. Everything's all in the moment. Baseball's an emotional game. It really is. And this is umpiring for the Pecos League has taught me that a lot. That this is a very emotional game and very competitive.
How did you guys prepare for this? I mean, earlier you mentioned about how here you are, you graduated from umpiring school, and all of a sudden you're in professional baseball. Like, what do you have? Like a helpline that you can call, or mentors you can call? I mean, it's great. It sounds like you guys have a good relationship and you're supporting each other. But is there someone that you can call to review if there's something that you're talking about after a game and say, maybe we should call this person, or does someone check in on you? How does that work?
I mean, there's no one really. If we have to, we could call Andrew.
Yep.
Andrew Dunn for any play or anything that's weird during the game.
Scott brought his rule book and his 2-man system. So like early season, if we had a weird play after the game, we'd come look at it, make sure we got the call right, make sure we'll get it right in the future as well.
Mm-hmm. But other than that, there's really no. I mean, I'll call my parents here and there. Something weird that happened, but I know they can't really do anything about it. But yeah, there's really no lifeline to call. So.
I mean, do the Wintelstadt school, do they give you, like, if you say you can call up, you have a question, or do they assign like a mentor, or I don't know how it works.
No, it's honestly just me and Micah. If we got to talk about something, we'll talk about it.
It's like the same as the players. If they have a bad game, it's like, forget it. If there's a weird play, we got to look it up after the game, but we got to forget it. It's a new game tomorrow.
It's a new game.
And if you had to go, so if you had a weird situation develop and you're in the same, working with the same teams, and you look something up and you find out something, do you confer with the managers before the game to talk about what happened to get things back on track?
Yeah, if something's been called wrong that we've looked up on weird plays, the next day we'll go up to the manager and be like, hey, this is what happened. If it happens again, this is the correct way to call it, and apologize.
Yeah.
Make sure we get it right.
It's going to happen. No one's perfect. We're going to make mistakes. And
Seen some plays this year that we've never seen before.
yeah, and now we've seen them. Now we know what to do.
So like what? Like you can give an example of
An
something
example.
strange, something that happened.
The weirdest one of trying to figure out how we wanted to call it was an infield fly in Roswell that we just didn't yell it loud enough that half the players didn't hear it, and just trying to make sure that even though they finished the play, we get it ruled correctly.
Yeah.
And that was our biggest weird play of the year.
Also, I got hit by a line drive as a field umpire, and once that happens, the ball's dead. But in that specific moment, we kept the ball in play.
So if you're behind the plate, though, and you get hit by the ball's in play,
It
right?
is, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's different in the field.
Different in the field.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
It depends. If you're in front of the field, if no fielders in front of you, like say the ball doesn't pass an infielder other
Right.
than the pitcher, it's a dead ball. But if infield is playing in and you're back and it passes the infield and it hits you,
it's live. Oh, okay. So it's basically once so it allows a play to take place. I see. Okay. And you guys are working every day.
Every day, pretty much. Yeah. It's been every day.
Yeah.
That's what it feels
Even
like.
some of our off days, we'll get called and
We'll
be
get
like, "Hey,
called.
we need you."
Yeah.
And do you guys go to the gym? Do you work out to maintain? Because I remember doing some reading about umpires and the whole thing about squatting behind the plate. I mean, you're squatting behind the plate for 300 pitches per game.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't go into dugout in between innings.
No.
And I know that a lot of umpires, because of that demand, they need to stay in shape. They go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are very proud of doing tens of thousands of squats behind the plate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you guys have time to just keep yourselves in shape?
Depends on the city we're in. Some have easy access gyms, some don't.
Some don't. Yeah.
But usually not unless it's an off day. Then I try to keep the legs moving, make sure we're staying ready.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But to piggyback on what you were saying about squatting all that time behind the plate, you kind of get used to it as the season goes on. But definitely, you still want to be in shape and
I would agree.
trying to go to a gym.
Yeah, early season. After every game, legs felt dead. At this point, after the game, just
Sore,
whatever.
And over the course of the season, you're obviously not the same umpire you were when you started. I mean, what have each of you learned about being an umpire? And I mean it from the non-technical side, about being an umpire. And so let's talk about that. Just about what have you learned about being an umpire now that you've been through 50 games, Scott?
What I've learned is, again, baseball is a competitive game, and the Pecos League has really shown me that night and day. You gotta be on your best. You gotta be your best. You gotta treat every game like it's Game 7 of the World Series.
Because of people's emotions and attention to every single play.
Everything. It's just.
Was there a time where that clicked for you? I mean, was there a moment or a game or a series where you said, "Boy, I have to take it as seriously as that"?
Early in the season, that's when the light bulb in my head was like, this is legit.
Yeah, I
This
think
is pro baseball.
For me, it was when Jason Rooks hit the 480-foot home run. I'm like, oh, we're serious now.
Yeah.
And in terms of, you came from an umpiring school, so you learn about the rules and you learn about tricky situations, but you're out here in the field actually doing the work. How much does the school prepare you? I mean, how much of it do you have to learn because it's on the job? I mean, obviously you know the rules, except for maybe some of the exotic ones.
Yeah.
But how is it different? You're saying, well, I've got my certification, but what did you learn out here that they couldn't teach you in umpiring school?
At the school, they didn't do a ton of ball and strike work. They worked on our calls, but not as much as the zone. So here was figuring out what we like our zone to be.
Our zone, for sure. That's the biggest thing, is working on your zone. Because that's what Micah said. They didn't, at the school, not much work was done trying to get down your zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I kind of had to work on my own with that.
So is this something that over the course of the season, that's something you've gotten comfortable with, and it's become
Comfortable is a key word.
and that's that must be with every umpire that comes out. I mean, it's one thing to be at school; it's another thing to be behind the plate.
Each game, we've both been feeling better and better about what we're doing. A lot more confident. If you would have asked us early season, still scared, anxiety, but at this point, no worries.
Yeah, it's night and day compared to May. Well, our first game was May 30th, so it's been almost 2 months.
Do you have any favorite cities, places that you look forward to going to? I know the weather's hot and there's a lot of travel, but there's every time you're in the car and you're saying, "Oh, I'm so glad we're going to fill in the blank."
Since our games end so late, North Platte's one of my favorites, just because it has so many places still eat open. Some of the places we go, like there's only the McDonald's. That's it.
Yeah.
North Platte, honestly, exceeded my expectations. It's a great small town. It's probably one of my favorites. I like Trinidad. I like Santa Fe was really cool.
What do you like about Trinidad and Santa Fe?
Trinidad, I love the weather in Trinidad. It's all like overcast. I love that type of weather.
Yeah, it's cool. It's only up in the 80s in Trinidad, and it cools off at night. We're in Blackwell. You got the heat and humidity that never gives back.
That was a rough few days.
Yep. Yeah. And Kansas City is pretty much the same as Blackwell.
But the two places we do not go are Tucson and Kansas City.
Okay.
And Alpine.
Okay. So you go to Roswell.
We go to Roswell.
Okay, so why don't you talk about the weather in Roswell for a minute? For people that haven't been to Roswell, New Mexico, how would you describe the weather in Roswell, New Mexico?
Yeah, if you want to go to Roswell, New Mexico, you should be ready for the heat.
Yeah. It's like a sneaky hot. It just gets
hotter.
hotter.
It just gets hotter. You just be like, dang, it's getting hotter and hotter each minute.
I mean, it's well into the 90s, right? Even pushing 100.
Yeah, just like the humidity. You'll have a 6:30 game, and at 9 you'll be like, man, it's still humid out here.
The hottest we did was a doubleheader in Pecos at 110. Melted the bottom of my field shoes.
Yeah.
Wait, well, yeah, those fields are all turf too.
Yeah.
The turf fields. Turf. I mean, so you're out there. So the players, they get to go into the dugout. And you guys are in Pecos, so they have turf in Garden City, and Trinidad's a little cooler. I mean, so what do you guys? So you said the turf in Pecos melted the bottom of your shoes.
Yeah, my field shoes, the tops of them are kind of starting to fall off now from that game.
So what do you do to prepare for that? How do you do it?
My shoes didn't get melted, so I was all right. But I knew there could be a possibility. Even from the players saying, if they were in the Pecos League last year, saying that, oh man, Pecos is hot. Get ready for your shoes to be melted.
Bought nice water bottles that try to keep it colder. Have liquid IVs in our bags just in case.
Yeah, and they did a great job of. Almost every inning, they were offering waters, so. Some places, if they're really hot, they do a great job of trying to check in on you.
Okay, so you've been through almost to the end of the Pecos League season. We've got a few more regular season games, and the playoffs begin. So now that you have been through a season, if you were talking to somebody that was going to be thinking about being an umpire here in the Pecos League, and you were going to give them a survival guide, what would be the 2 or 3 or 4 things you would tell them that would make the season go better for them?
That's a great question.
Always be ready to be on the road. Like, just in the 2 months so far, I've put 6,000 miles in my car.
Yeah. Never get comfortable with being in it. Just know you'll always be moving around, whether it be state to state. It's a little difficult, but it gets easier to me.
How about on the field? I mean, what advice would you give a new umpire to the Scott and Micahs of 2026? What advice would you give them to prepare for the season?
Just make sure you're in good contact with your partner and zone out everybody yelling at you, because every day there'll be close calls and someone's going to get mad. Just got to keep going.
Yeah, be confident. Be very confident in yourself, because there's only 2 of you. So you have to be, confidence is key. It's really key.
Okay, so as the last question is, what happens after the season for each of you? What are your visions or thoughts about the next phase of umpiring for you? Why don't you take this one first, Scott? What's next?
What's next for me? I would love to still umpire locally, whether it be high school, something, just to have my mind still in umpiring, and hopefully I go back to Wendelstedt, if not this upcoming year, the next year, and hopefully get another opportunity.
In pro baseball?
In pro baseball.
Okay. And how about you, Micah? What's next for you in umpiring?
I don't know. It's a long season that I haven't thought about the future too much yet. We're just kind of going day by day, getting through it.
Okay, well, we'll check back, and I'll text you, and you can tell me when the season's over what you want to do. I want to thank Scott Cotton and Micah Scott for help for sharing their thoughts on umpiring here, and we're looking forward to seeing you at Bill Wood Field tonight for the second game of our series against Kansas City. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
All right, you're listening to Baseball's Last Frontier, stories from the Pecos League. I'm Bruce McClure, I'm here with Evan Katz, North Platte 80s bullpen coach. That was really interesting to hear an umpire's perspective.
Well, they really have to have a good relationship. I mean, these guys had never met before. They have to develop their own personal relationship. They're think about this. You're living together, you're driving together, you're umpiring together, and you're always in an adversarial environment. So think about the relationship that they have to develop over the course of the season. And imagine, also, if it's a two-man crew, there's only one relationship. If you have a four-man crew, I don't know what the geometry of that is, but you could have a whole bunch of different relationships, one-person relationships, three-person relationships, four-person relationships, to kind of adjust and move and dodge and weave, whether you're talking about umpiring or what kind of food you like. These two guys, they're joined at the hip, and it's really incredible. They sounded like they've really been able to weather the demands of umpiring, as well as also figuring out how to work together. It was really great to hear that they're both doing so well after 50 games.
Right? Yeah, I've always believed that umpiring gets more and more difficult as you go backwards down the rungs of professional baseball, and that interview sort of lent itself to that theory and how close these two guys have to be in order to survive, survive the season, get through it in a good place.
Well, and it does evolve. We've had these Micah and Scott since the beginning of the year, probably for 15, 20 games. And everyone's emotions are higher at the beginning of the year. They're getting to know the umpires. As they get to know the umpires get to know the players. And I think that they alluded to this. Things do wind down. There's an expectation level that gets set. There's also an understanding, the two-man crew. It's just a lot harder to make calls because of the distance and the angles, and people just get used to each other. And so it does evolve over time, and the edge does come off that the relationship that's there in the beginning of the season. I think that helps to everybody begins to understand that even though the umpires are looking at the game one way, we're all in this together. We all want to survive. We all want to get along. We're all trying to do our best. And I think as time has progressed over the season, that's definitely evident in the tenor and the tone of the umpire-player relationships over the course of the game. And also, they've gotten better. I mean, they've learned. I mean, these are two young guys. One of them's not even 20 years old. The other one's 23. They're doing professional umpiring for the first time, and they're learning as well. So it's a real credit to them for having the patience and the dedication to get to the point where they can feel more comfortable doing their jobs under very difficult circumstances.
Yeah, man, I have a vague recollection of being that young at one time in my life, but that's another story altogether. Hey, tell me what's going on this week. It's a short week for you guys, right?
Short week. We clinched home field advantage for the first round of the wild card series. We have a 3-game regular season tune-up with Blackwell tonight, tomorrow, and Tuesday, the 27th to the 29th. Playoffs are scheduled to start Wednesday right here in North Platte. and then Thursday, and then Friday if needed. And so the next 3 games, I think that we've already played Blackwell, I think 12 times. We know them pretty well, but we'll get to know them a little better. Remember, players evolve too over the course of the season.
Mhm.
Some players are still struggling, others are getting better. So we'll use it to take some time to figure out more about Blackwell. And also Todd Everleth, the manager, will be figuring out, based on what he's seen over the 50 or so games that we've had, what are the best possible matchups to put up against Blackwell.
There you go. It's going to be an interesting week. We look forward to seeing what's going to happen as you wind it up and gliding into the playoffs. But for more information on the Pecos League, you can check out their website at pecosleague.com. And you can still catch all the action left in the season at pecosleague.tv as well. And finally, if you're a hardcore baseball fan, you need to join the Society for American Baseball Research, the premier baseball community. Offering an amazing baseball buffet of options to explore your fandom, SABR boasts more than 35 different research committees, over 80 regional chapters, and innumerable opportunities to connect with baseball minds across the world. For more information, go to sabr.org today. All right, man. Last licks. What do you got?
Last Licks. This is a special Last Licks tribute. This is a shout out to Nikki Naranjo Barker, one of the major driving volunteer forces behind the 80s. She already has a full-time job and a family, yet she has the energy, patience, and persistence to successfully lead so many supporting roles in North Platte. And I got to remind our listeners, the season runs from May to the middle of May to the end of July. All this preparatory work starts months before the season begins. And also for Nikki, our games start at 6:30. She's at the ballpark 2 hours before that. She doesn't get home until close till midnight. And when we're on the road, she's working just as hard with sponsors, social media, vendors. She's in touch with the commissioner and host family. So what I'd like to do here is because we tried to get Nikki as a guest, and she was just too humble to interview, to talk about herself. And I kept saying, Nikki, come on, won't you please consider it? And I said, how about this? Text me something. And I talked to Jamie Anderson, who's another dedicated volunteer. We get a testimonial from her. So we're going to use these last licks as a shout out to say thank you to Nikki Naranjo Barker for all of her hard work. And first I'm going to read Jamie Anderson's testimonial about Nikki. Jamie is affiliated with KNOP TV in North Platte, and this is how she described Nikki's roles and her spirit. She's in charge of concessions. She's taken on social media. She makes sure the boys are fed, both on the road and in after games. She's done sponsor recruitment. She's coordinated with numerous key people to create the sponsor nights. She came up with host family honors nights. She is just the go-to lady for everything. She has a huge heart and compassion for both the boys on the team she created as the 80s, and the community. She does it all with a smile. She's a creative go-getter. So thank you, Jamie Anderson, for describing from your perspective what Nikki does for the team. Now, from Nikki. Now, this is again, she did not want to be interviewed, so I decided we're going to have to figure a way out to give her the recognition she deserves. What I'm going to read to you, Bruce, I picked up my phone this morning when I got up to go to the gym at 7 o'clock. Is a message from Nikki. I looked at the timestamp. She wrote this at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Jeez.
About 7 hours ago, after we had host family recognition night. So think about this. She shows up at the park at 4:30. The game is at 6:30. We got 200 fans. She's in charge of everything that goes on at the park. We feed the players after the game. Then she goes home. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. This is what she wrote at 2 o'clock this morning. This team has completely stolen my heart. What started out as me simply falling in love with the game again has turned into something so much bigger. I absolutely love these boys. They've become like my own sons. After last year, which the 80s was the first year in 2024, I was able to build a staff, and just like the players and coaches on the field, The staff and I make up a team of our own that keeps everything running. Without my team, and I can guarantee you there are dozens of people, none of this would be possible. We work together, and that's what makes us successful. What I focus on most is organizing our business nights and bringing youth baseball players in to be mentored by these young men on the 80s. I also help run the concession stand, which gives our cheerleaders a way to fund their own account by working. I take pride in being a second home for these boys, someone they can count on when they're missing their families or just had a long week. I work on finding dinner sponsors or donating meals myself, so the boys always have food after the games. I help organize raffles to ease the expense of their journey and connect with local businesses for banner sponsorships to build relationships and spread the word about how amazing these young men truly are. This isn't just baseball. It's a family, a community, and something I'm beyond proud to be part of. So I want to thank Nikki Naranjo Barker for her incredible dedication and for taking the time to describe what she does behind the scenes so fans and our listeners and the people in North Platte can truly understand how hard she works to make the games possible on the field.
Wow. It's all about community wherever you go, whether that be in baseball, real life, as I like to put it, wherever it might be. I work personally in a small business where we have developed a community within our walls and extended that outside our walls to our fair city of Concord, New Hampshire, where we work together with numerous businesses for the benefit of everybody. And to see Nikki as a tireless advocate and worker and cheerleader and head of the family of this entire organization, to see that is exactly what community is all about. And probably her picture should be next to the definition of community in the dictionary. So Nikki, a couple of things if you're listening to this podcast this week. One, we really want to get you on for an interview and talk to you and hear you talk about this club. So don't be shy. Get a hold of Evan. Let's get you in on that. And two, this is now me putting on my SABR hat. You need to join the Society for American Baseball Research as well. So, so let's hope we can get Nikki on before the season's over. That was fantastic. Thank you for reading that, Evan. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Well, it took some polite persistence on my part. I just didn't want to give up because there was just too many good things that she does that needed to be recognized one way or another. Through the podcast and any other way we can let people know how hard she works and how she makes things go behind the scenes.
That's awesome. Well, let's get everybody out of here. We got one more next week. Let's see as if North Platte gets far in the playoffs. For Evan Katz, I'm Bruce McClure. Take it easy.